So by increasing the margin all the way to 2.6 million ballots, that was just their way of silencing all critics. Just go like, even if you have some proof of fraud, like so what? The margin is 2.6 million. So if you think that Hungary really won this election, you're crazy. But actually, Hungary won this election by an even bigger landslide than Taiwan officially won by. Taiwan officially won by 2.6 million ballots. How much did Hungary really win the election by? 4.5 million ballots. An even larger margin than she claims she won by. That's a total of 7.18 million rigged ballots. So I would like to propose some new numbers to identify with these candidates. First of all, Taiwan doesn't have 8.17 million ballots. There's no Bai Yi-Chi, okay? What's her real ballot count, which you can estimate through the statistics? I calculated 3.84 million. San Ba Si. Hungary does not have 5.52 million ballots. He has approximately 8.38 million. Ba San Ba, okay? How many ballots were stuffed for Taiwan? 4.3 million. How many ballots were stolen from Hungary? 2.8 million, approximately. So when you add those two figures together, what's the total number of rigged ballots in this election? 718. So the Central Election Commission, Li Jingyong, he gets a 718. That's how many ballots this guy had the election staff rig. Okay? So it was a completely staged and false election. Okay? No part of this election was real. So we saw in June 2019 that they started faking the opinion polls using the Hong Kong protests as a pretext for why Taiwan could go from being down by 30 points, losing to Hungary by 20 to 30 points, to being up 20 to 30 points. Okay, that's a shift of like 50 to 60 points just because of Hong Kong extradition protests. Yet, let me ask you guys something. Have you ever met a single person in Taiwan that voted for Tsai Ing-wen that was originally going to vote for Hungary, but then they changed their mind because of those protests? Like, I haven't met a single person. If there are 50 to 60% of the voters are changing their minds because of the Hong Kong protests, then those people should be like everywhere. Like almost every other person you're meeting who voted in the election should have voted for Tsai Ing-wen, but originally was going to vote for Hungary, and they changed their mind. Okay, this reason was given by the poll centers. This reason was given by the pan-green media. But if you talk to the people, you can't find a single person who claims this. Instead, everyone says, yeah, I voted for Hungary, or I voted for Tsai Ing-wen, and that's what they were originally going to do anyway, right? Those Hong Kong protests didn't change anything. The election results were always going to be the same. Okay, Tsai Ing-wen was not going to be re-elected on January 11th, 2020, no matter what, unless she cheated. So they knew they had to cheat. The DPP knew they had to cheat. Okay, after the 2018 election results came out, it's just like, that's it, we have to rig the election. So they didn't take over the poll centers until June 2019. And that's where the manipulation begins. The fraud was set up from way before that, but the poll center manipulation started June 2019. And since January 11th, 2020, the poll centers are still under Taiwan's control. So her support rate has been astronomically high since then, when in fact it's always been most likely below 30%. Okay, Taiwan's support rate in January 11th was around 30%. Hungary's support rate was 65% approximately. So we see Taiwan's support rate from late 2016 to June 2019 being below 30% the whole time. Okay, it's like hovering between 20 to 30%, and all of a sudden it goes up to like 50 to 60%. Okay, so after the election, she continues faking her support rate, saying, oh, I did such a good job with COVID. You know, people love me to death. They're so afraid of China. They're just so glad to have me, right? Since the DPP is continuing with its rigging of the media polls, just having the poll centers fake the polls outright. I'm not saying that they're actually calculating she's getting 60%, 50%, 40%. I'm just saying that they're calculating a different figure and they're not giving it to you. They're just showing you a completely false opinion poll. There's no vast conspiracy as far as like how the Tsai administration can somehow fool the poll centers into calling certain phone numbers or whatever. I don't think that that's the case. I think that the poll center directors all know that they have to fake these opinion polls, because there's no way that they can really force these poll centers to do their polls a certain way to always get like a result that's favorable to Tsai. No, basically the poll center director knows what's going on and he fakes the poll at the end of the day, and then that's what gets publicized. Okay, that's what's happening inside TVBS. Okay, that's what's happening most likely in the rest of the poll centers. So in future elections, say 2022 and 2024, they don't even need the Hong Kong extradition protests anymore, because they were faking it all along. From June 2019, for the rest of time, while the DPP is in power, all the opinion polls will be fake to say exactly what they want them to say. So they're just going to say that their support is high the whole time so that you won't question if their support's really that high, right? Because it's been saying that all along for years.
Now, some people have observed that Taiwan's support rate has gone from a high of 61 down to 41 due to the recent COVID outbreak and such. However, this opinion poll is still fake. Just because her support rate has gone down 20 points doesn't make this opinion poll real. The 41% is still fake. If her support rate is 41% in this opinion poll, that means her real support rate is probably below 20% and most likely in the teens, I'd say around 15%, like it was after the 2018 local elections. When it says 60, it probably means 30. When it says 41, it probably means 15.
Since June 2019, the extradition protests happened. The people have had rock solid support for the DPP. And it's continued all the way until 2022. And then now we have local elections in 2022. And we're continuing to have strong support. And then they'll rig the election. And then they'll go, we'll see, it matched with the opinion polls. Right? The opinion polls are not fake because the election results match with the false opinion polls. Okay, so they don't need an outside factor like the extradition protest or like a 319 shooting incident. So, like, why did the 319 shooting incident happen in 2004? It's because Chen Shui-bian did not have control of the poll centers. Okay, TVBS and Niandai era were not under control by him. So he needed an incident in order to force those poll centers to show what he wanted to show on March 19th. Okay, on March 18th, he's losing big. He's losing by 10 points, okay? Which is 1.5 million ballots. He stages the incident on March 19th. The poll centers do their polls on March 19th, and they find out that Li and Song are still winning by 5 to 6 points. Okay, the election results come out the next day on March 20th. Chen Shui-bian wins by 29,000 ballots. And then he goes and he talks to those TV stations. And he's like, okay, look, you have to change your March 19th opinion poll to say it was neck and neck. So TVBS changes it to 39 to 38. So that's only 1%. ERA, Niandai, changes it so that their poll indicates that Chen really won by 0.2%. The DPP back in 2004 had a lot less power. Even though they're the ruling party, they don't have the majority in the legislature. They don't have the kind of control over the media that they have today. So in 2019, they have the majority in the legislature. They have the NCC. They can revoke any TV station's license. All the media have to like bow down to the ruling party when it really comes down to it. And then they just, they just set the law of the land. They're like, you need to fake your opinion polls. And this is not going to end until the media, the poll centers in Taiwan, are severely challenged by another poll center that's willing to do real polls. But I don't see how that's going to happen, because no media in Taiwan is going to be doing real polls in Taiwan ever again. So we had a couple of YouTubers doing street polls in 2019 that essentially proved that the media polls were false, but they weren't that well accepted as being the truth, even though they were the truth. People said, oh, the sample size is not large enough, or like Just like, oh, I don't believe that, you know, like they could have faked it, or, you know, just like people like rationalize why the street polls done by the YouTubers weren't real, when in fact they were actually more real than the media polls.